Hey everybody, this is Tracy here to review episode 2 of Insecure, entitled Messy as Fuck. Okay, so Issa and Molly are at brunch and they're reflecting over the previous night and just talking about life in general, and Molly is still feeling some kind of way about Issa referring to her coochie as being broke and doing the rap at the club, the night before, and messing up, her rapping to the guy, that she had met. So Molly says that she's going to have a Molly maintenance day, and, because her poor coochie is broken and she needs to give it a tune-up. And so I thought that was funny, but Issa asked her, what does that entail? And so she said, she was going to get her hair done, her nails done, and she was going to do a vagina, which I guess is like a facial, but it's for your private parts. And so Issa did decide to go along with her, but at the same time, she's talking to Molly about her problems. And I'm thinking, poor Issa, not only is she in a relationship with a guy who has no potential, but then he's not even fulfilling her sexually, which just makes it even that much more worse. And unfortunately, she's talking to the wrong person about Mr. Potential and his replacement, because Molly seems like the type that just thinks if you got a man, you should be happy and satisfied and whatever you need to do. And then it's also bad that she's talking to Molly, because Molly is, we've learned, picks up her men off of sites like Tinder, the dating sites, and Black People Meet, where they're doing nothing but playing games on there. So Issa, you might not want to be getting advice from Miss Molly on how to find Mr. Potential's replacement. Back at the apartment, and Mr. Potential, he doesn't seem to ever leave that couch that he's always being filmed on, which is not a good thing. And so he's trying to call Issa, she won't answer the phone. And then what do weak guys do? Just annoying, aggravating men do? They start calling your friends. So, Molly's looking at her phone while they're at brunch, and she's like, why is your man calling me? And so Issa's like, oh my God, like he's really starting to get on her nerves. So when he can't get Issa to answer the phone or Molly to answer the phone, then he starts calling his friends. But, his friends have a life, so they're out living their life and enjoying themselves. And so he interrupts, I guess it's his best friend who's out with some other guys. And that's the other thing. So when you're not doing anything with your life, if your friends are positive and have things going on, then they're going to migrate towards people who also have things going on. So Lawrence is sitting at the house, licking his wounds, and his friends is at the sports bar, and the guy, he's trying to enjoy himself, and he really doesn't want to become part of Lawrence's pity party, so he brushes him off the phone. And so now Lawrence is really feeling bad about himself. So how many of us have had that moment where we want to go home, but we just don't want to go to our home? And that's kind of what Issa is feeling when we see her again, because she's sitting outside in her car outside the parking lot, and she's dreading going into the house. And so eventually she decides to leave, and that's like really a horrible feeling when you can't even go to the place where you're paying the bills, where all of your things are, and I tell my kids all the time, like, your home should be your refuge, and if somebody's keeping you from going home, then it's time for those people to get out the house, or either for you to move on and find you another place. So the next scene that we see, Issa and Mr. No Potential are at the Rite Aid, I think they're at, and so he's buying her a birthday card, and I'm thinking, okay, wasn't her birthday like a day or two ago? So now you're going to try and make up for ruining her day. And then also he had like 2 bags worth of stuff, and I'm thinking, if you've been sitting on that couch for the past 4 years, where do you get money from to be buying her something? So don't let me find out that you're actually buying her card and her gift and whatever you're going to cook for dinner with her money, because then that would just really be a low blow. So he runs into Issa in the aisle, and she's buying underwear, and so he confronts her about, where have you been, what are you doing, when are you coming home? And so they're going at it, and then she asked him, I think he got upset and walked away, and she asked him, could she use the Rite Aid discount card? And so, he tells her no, and I was thinking, oh, how petty of you. But then also Issa was being petty because she knew she had upset him and hurt his feelings, and so she shouldn't have been asking him to hold the Rite Aid card. Next, we see Issa, and she's back at Molly's apartment, and you know that's what happens. You know, when you're a single woman, have your own place, and then your friend is having trouble with her man, you know, then all of a sudden she becomes your roommate and your shadow, and she wants you to entertain her and talk to her, and you know, help her make, you know, her life decisions and figure out what she's going to do in the future. And so Molly, you know, she's being a good friend, and she tells her, you know, it's okay, you can come in, you can hang out, but you know, deep down inside she's like, when I find my next boo, you're gonna have to move up out of here. When Issa returns to the office, the girl, I think in the first episode I may have forgotten to mention that this team that she's on, she's the only African American on the team, and they partnered her with this really giddy white lady who's ready to, you know, save the world. And Issa's not really feeling her, so when she gets back to the office, the woman has come up with all these great ideas. You know, all of her ideas, she's telling her, you know, why it won't work and why it's an insult, you know, to the black kids. And so Issa wants to expose them to the arts, but when they get in the group meeting with the rest of the team, you know, they aren't really feeling it. And you know, it's just like, oh my God, you know, they're just acting like these dream killers. They don't want to see Issa's side of it, and then they turn it around and make it, you know, like, okay, well, we can go with the arts, but not, you know, opera and that type of thing. We'll expose them to stuff that they're already being exposed to, you know, in the black community. So it's almost as if they want to keep them in the black community, not learning, not expanding, not growing, opposed to taking them out of their environment and showing them that there's a different life. And I think that happens in most communities, because I know it happens here, you know, where I live at. Have like that same thing where you have kids that never leave their own communities to see that there's another part of the city, you know, waiting to be explored and new things for them to try. And so Issa, you know, she's getting deflated, you know, but she has to realize that, you know, when she comes in and she's dealing with this dynamic of a group, you know, she got to bring her AAA game, or they're going to tear her apart. And, you know, they're going to start, you know, putting the labels on her and, you know, painting her as unmotivated and uninspiring, you know, and the list goes on. And then next thing you know, she'll be the angry black woman that's, you know, bringing negativity to the group. You know, we know how the games are played. So poor Molly, you know, she's back at her office, and she's giving Diane, you know, the coworker who got engaged in episode 1, and she's giving her a really hard time, and she just can't be happy for her. You know, but she's got to realize that until Diane and Jamal tie the knot, you know, everybody's going to be happy for Diane. Diane's going to be sharing those wedding plans, so she's just going to have to learn to deal with it and get over it and just pretend to be happy even if she isn't happy for her. We're back at the apartment, you know, and Mr. No Potential, he's having a pity party. He takes all the items that he had purchased at the Rite Aid, and we see him go downstairs and put them in the dumpster, you know, and then he pulls out the card he had bought for Issa, and it was like one of those talking cards. And so he listens to the card, and he closes the card, but then the card won't stop saying whatever the message was, and so he's pushing it down in the garbage can. So one of the neighbors from downstairs, this guy and his little girl, he sees him, and you know, he's asking him, you know, dude, are you okay? What's going on? And so he starts trying to talk to Mr. No Potential, you know, and telling him, you know, life is hard, but you got to suck it up and do, you know, whatever you need to do to make your woman happy and be a better man. And so he's cursing and carrying on, and Mr. No Potential is like, you know, dude, watch your mouth in front of your little girl. But I'm sure the little girl has heard it all, and the guy wasn't trying to change or, you know, clean it up. And then finally he tells Mr. No Potential, you know, if things don't work out with you and your woman, you know, I got a whole bunch of bitches I can introduce you to. But Mr. No Potential, I think he's more concerned with trying to keep the good thing he already got and trying to figure out how he can keep stringing her along until he finds a job or do whatever it is that he's sitting on that couch contemplating about doing. Later in the show, Issa is having a conversation with her manager at the nonprofit where she works, and the lady, you know, as I was saying earlier, you know, if you're the one black in the group, they expect you to perform, you know, 10 times higher than everybody else. And so she's pretty much having that speech with Issa, you know, telling her, oh, you don't seem as motivated, you know, all the stuff that I mentioned earlier, you know, that was going to happen with the group is happening. And so later on, Issa is meeting with her co-worker, you know, who she's working on the project with, and she shares how Molly had told her that, you know, even though they grew up surrounded by water, it wasn't until she was in college that she actually went to the beach for the first time. And, you know, as I mentioned in episode 1, my daughter is actually an educator, and that scene reminded me so much of her, because my daughter is always coming up with innovative ways to impact these kids and, you know, take them out of their comfort zone and expose them to new things. And last year she took a group of kids and she took them out, you know, to the beach, and I can't remember if they camped out or if it was a one-day trip, but she was just so happy that, you know, how the kids responded to the trip, and how some of them had never, you know, just like Molly, had never been to the beach before. And so, yeah, I'm having a proud mommy moment at the time. But it just goes to show that, you know, our young people, they know how to impact these kids. And so if they're just given a chance, they can really make a difference in education and kind of re-engage our kids and reconnect them to the notion of education and learning something new, so that they can move on to the next level in life. So the last scene of the show, Molly is out on a date, and we know from the start, you know, my bullshit meter at least, it went way up like 2 seconds into the conversation. And then of course, as they're leaving the restaurant, the guy pretty much tells Molly that he just wants to have sex with her. And I just thank God that she didn't fall for it, and that she, you know, didn't waste her vaginal fascia on this dude. And so we see her later on, she's walking down the street and she runs into the guy from the open mic club, and so, you know, he recognized her and he calls out to her. And so I'm thinking, you know, maybe that would be Molly's Mr. Right, if she just gives him a chance. Even though he didn't look like he had much potential in the club, you know, he may turn around to be a great guy, and he could be the guy that she's looking for. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed that Miss Molly will find love on this show. And so finally, before it closed out, I know I said that the scene with Molly was the end of the show, but actually the end of the show was Issa, and she's in the bathroom and she's doing one of her monologue rap scenes again, and she's, you know, playing out how she's going to break up with Mr. No Potential, and how the argument is going to go. And of course we get led to the fighting over the CDs, and I got to thinking, you know, we can be petty at the breakup point, where we're arguing over stuff that don't even matter, probably CDs that we haven't listened to in probably the past 10 years. But I was thinking, with today's technology and it comes breakup time, like, how do you split up the iTunes and the movies that you've saved on your computer? Like, do you fight over the computer, and whoever bought the computer gets everything that's on the computer? You guys let me know, you know, with this new technology age, how that works, you know, when you break up and there's not physical stuff, but just a bunch of crap that's stored on our listening devices, our phones, our iPads, and all of that. So that was it for episode 2. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the channel. And until next time, much love. Bye-bye.